Hey, what's up? Well, happy St. Patrick's Day. Long time no video. Very sorry about that. But, I was elsewhere and I am so happy. I got to have my nails painted. It means the world to me. Like you cannot possibly imagine. I wish I could have that every day. But unfortunately, living with a man has some huge minuses. There are pluses, but that is a huge minus. You cannot have your nails done by another person. Just not gonna work. And I have my shamrock earrings once again. It's hard to believe it feels like yesterday when I was wearing them for last St. Patrick's Day. And, just always sneaks up on me. St. Patty's Day once again. And I'm wearing the layered look because it had to get cold on us. So, without further ado, I would like to unbox a few things that came in, which I should have not ordered anything. But while I was at Mom's, I always get these urges to order. And I'll share a few of them. One of them is Catboy Connor without his costume from PJ Masks. Another is a 1/12 scale McDonald's Pinocchio with a nose that grows. I've always wanted that. He's proportional to Sophia. Another is Sophia's two pet birds, Robin and Mia, who are some rare exception to the rules wherein most animal characters are male. And I think it's really sad that you have token female animals and token male humans. Just to offset it being 100% female humans and male animals. This really makes me mad. Last but not least, I have Honey Marin and Ryder from Frozen. Also somewhat proportional, though a little smaller, to the 1/12 scale. Actually, they're more like maybe 1/15 or 1/14, I'm not sure. But they're 4 inches. So, what I want to talk about today is a number of things. I want to talk about how you cannot. I want to title this video proving a negative, or how you cannot prove a negative. And that's another angle that I've never really looked at all this stuff that I've been talking about for 5 years. From the angle of you cannot disprove something in a work of fiction, or really a work of anything. You cannot prove that God doesn't exist. And I got that idea from the thing with Barron Trump and the atheist guy. You cannot prove that something didn't happen. If you weren't there, or if it isn't real. And that's what I've been stating over the past 5 years now. 5 years of my life have gone down the drain with me discussing that. And that's really just what I want to say. Is that you would have to prove a negative. And that you cannot do. You can't do that. You can't prove a negative. And what that means is that if I want to believe what I do, and, there's really no proof otherwise, then you really can't stop me from believing it. Because it really wouldn't matter anyway. It wouldn't change anything. I mean, like I say, I mean, it just really wouldn't, my life wouldn't be that much different. And my feelings on the show, my feelings on the people that watch the show, it wouldn't really change based on what I'm saying is like, even if you could disprove what I've been saying, over the past 5 years, that really wouldn't be an accomplishment. It wouldn't be the accomplishment that they think it would be. And this gaslighting with red herrings about other people doing what I think she did wouldn't work either. Because, I mean, since when are they conjoined twins who share the same butthole? That's like saying, we won't make it about poop. But let's just say that I said this character talked. Make it something as benign as that. This girl talked in the movie Frozen 2. And you said, no, she didn't. This guy talked instead. Well, no sheet Sherlock. They have two separate voice actors. Two separate voices. Okay, they both talked in the movie. It's about as stupid as what they're trying to say is. Two separate human bodies, two separate voices, two separate buttholes, two separate everything. Okay? It would be like if I said, Pinocchio is a cute little boy. And you'd say, no, he isn't. Connor is a cute little boy. And by the way, he's the only one I want. Because the only purpose in buying these dolls from boy shows that I didn't really watch on Nick and Disney Jr. is to have human male dolls. Particularly children. In a collection where there's too many of the reverse. So, if I said, this one is a cute little boy, and you said, no, he isn't. This one is. Well, that doesn't make any sense. They're both cute little brunette boys. So, you cannot disprove a negative with a positive that has nothing to do with it. You know what I'm saying? That's like saying, God doesn't exist. Because the Bible has a lot of stuff that we consider homophobic and sexist and outdated, and we just don't like what the Bible says, so God cannot possibly exist. Okay, well, that does not disprove the existence of God. That just shows me why you have this need to base your whole worldview on God not existing. It doesn't prove that he doesn't exist. You know what I'm saying? The fact that you cannot accept what the Bible says does not make God any less existent, as Baron Trump pointed out. And the fact that these things cannot stand up to any scrutiny, is all the proof that, hey, I'm onto something. Even if I can't prove myself right, I'm onto something. So, just want to put that out there. You cannot prove a negative. And so, like, even if, I mean, let's just pretend for a moment that the world were a better place and that the series would have ended in season 7. I think that would have been perfect. Lucky season 7, the number of completion. You'd have still had my favorite episodes. You'd have still had, a lot of good content. But if we'd have never had the Paris movie or the third movie and never introduced Kimmy and her mom, I think the world would be a better place. But let's just pretend that that were the case. Or let's just even pretend like you could write off the third movie as just Tommy's dream. Let's just pretend for a moment the third movie was just Tommy's dream and didn't really happen. That still would not leave you with a series that I would be proud to wear on my shirt. That still would not leave you with a show about dignified characters that I'd be proud to draw and say that I spent years of my life watching. Okay? So it's really an exercise in futility, and they're imagining a vain thing. You know, it's people being vain in their imagination. That they think if they could only, somehow shake my confidence in what I believe by the idea that Tommy may have also done it, like as if they're conjoined twins who share the same butthole, or they're or like what is Tommy? Somebody that's in the habit of shoving a butt plug up Angelica's butt when he does it? Really? When did that ever happen? So, yeah, it's just ridiculous. To try to tell me that because 3 plus 3 is 6, 2 plus 2 cannot be 4 is what they're doing. So, what I want to talk about is that, and how, there's just, the more I look into these things, the more evidence I find, like I said, supporting all the things I want to believe. All of them, every single one of them. And not only do I find that, I find evidence that those are just a small handful of examples of such things. I'm finding that such hidden, non-graphic poop scenes are actually more prevalent than you could ever imagine in children's media and other media. And that I only know of a handful of such things, and I really wish I could find more of them before I die, rather than rewatch the same old crap. But, there's this movie, Everything That Rises. Okay, it's live action. And it has a scene, I can't even believe they got a real child actor to do this, but a boy who in real life is 2 months older than I am. At the time, and believe it or not, it was around the time I was in middle school, and he still hadn't gone through puberty. He was actually 13 or 14, but playing a 12-year-old, which is how it usually works. They get a slightly older kid who's a late bloomer to play a younger child. And so they have a scene in there. He's playing the part of a boy who is paralyzed. And I think it's around the same time period as Angelica doing it. It's like they wait until at least halfway, but normally closer to the end of a movie before they put these things in there. They let you watch the majority of it, so you'll want to see the rest, rather than turn it off before you get into it. And near the end of the movie, around, I want to say like 77 minutes, like around the same time period, toward the end of the movie, like it was with Angelica, the little boy, he's paralyzed, but his grandpa is encouraging him to get back into rodeo. He's about 12 or 13, hadn't had his voice change, kind of like these guys. So a prepubescent or peripubescent white boy with blue eyes kind of lifts off of his saddle because he can feel, his body from the waist up. After roping a calf, he lifts his whole body with his arms, with the horn of the saddle, and he strains out a fart. And I'm not going to say it in first person, but he tells his grandpa he thinks he did something in his pants. Now, and then the guy's like, good for you. And then he starts laughing. It has Dennis Quaid in there. It's the, the actor that people would recognize. Everything That Rises, 1998. When I was still, I was in the age group. I'm 2 months younger than this boy in real life. Ryan Merriman. And, but that's just, like I said, in animation, it's easier to make it discreet, because you just don't animate anything you don't want people to see, such as vomit. If you don't want people to see the vomit, you simply do not draw the vomit at all. But, even in live action, such things occur. Discreet references to bodily fluids or functions that may or may not go over the heads of the audience. And I can't even believe there are real human people willing to play these roles. No wonder actors and actresses have such screwed up personal lives. It's like, how can they live with themselves after playing such a role? I never could. I can't even read it verbatim in first person. So, going on way too long about that, but I just want to say, like, you cannot prove a negative. You cannot prove a negative. If I want to believe that Angelica messed herself, the third movie, third RGW, then I will absolutely do it. And since there's no proof to the contrary, you cannot stop me from believing that. If I want to believe that Cedric did it in The Curse of Princess Ivy, I'm going to do it. It was at the beginning of part number 2, pun intended, disc number 2. And I also believe that the girls may have also done it, which is why they didn't tease him about it. And that's even, more outlandish and unimaginable, because pretty princesses supposedly don't have such bodily functions. Neither do fecal fairies and other fairies and other mythical girls and creatures. But in the true sense that they exist, I believe these cartoon characters actually did, just what that little boy did in Everything That Rises in the latter half of the movie. I believe that Lars did it at least once in Rocket Power near the beginning. And that's why he didn't go to New Zealand. And I believe a number of other things. Obviously Divine Secrets of the Ya-Ya Sisterhood. That's one of the more graphic examples that I've ever seen. Lulu and Baylor being sick. Baylor pooped the bed and Lulu vomited on her mom. And, what I have a problem with is not so much that they have these things, but it's the lack of accountability on the part of the people behind the shows and who are fans of the shows. The lack of accountability. Like, rather than just own up to it and say, yeah, we made a poop scene or a puke scene, big whoop, everybody does it at some point. Well, no, they will sit there and try to say, no, you're remembering it wrong. No, you're imagining things. 2 plus 2 isn't actually 4, no matter what your calculator says. They try to gaslight you. That's what makes me mad. It's not so much that I saw this. It's that people would like to tell me that I didn't and make excuses for the people behind these shows. And also think that, that if we could just cut out these things, we'd be all one and the same, like they never happened. But what you'd be left with wouldn't really be any better. It would only be worse. Because with the Rugrats thing, you would just have a movie where the villain doesn't get her comeuppance. On Sophia the First, you would be missing out on, something pretty exciting and sensational, as his name implies. And I also believe that it's probably not an isolated incident with him or Sophia. Because according to J.K. Rowling, when you have magical powers, you can just make your underwear vanish at the end of the day and conjure a new pair. Why wouldn't you do that at least occasionally when you can't get to a bathroom? I believe that is not an isolated thing with Cedric. That's probably why, everyone so willfully ignored it and didn't tease him or anything like that, because it might just be a day in the life for him. And, another thing, I just keep, it's like the more I look into it, the more confirmation there is. And, with Angelica, what people have just overlooked all these years about her, and why anyone would ever fetishize her and make her into a girlfriend is anybody's guess. To me, she'll never have that role. She'll always be just a stupid toddler character on a dumb show. But the way that her socks were pulled over what is not a pair of tights, but a pair of leggings that were open at the bottom, her socks. And that's a strange way to wear your socks, if you think about it. But she pulled her socks over her leggings. And, to make them into more like footy pajamas, to me that says she still pees in her clothes occasionally. and they want to soak up as much as they can if it runs down her legs. I mean, the whole character design is stupid. The way that I think she's wearing a big diaper that forms like a crinoline with her dress. That the way that her dress goes out, like the rings of Saturn, is because of a diaper bulge. And all these clues, were overlooked by these idiots that want them. They're so desperate for a girlfriend. And that's what really makes me so mad about it, because it's like, here I am, this classy nail painting lady that can do household chores and would never even fart in my clothing. But yet they would like to create a fictional girlfriend out of a toddler in a show. That shows me they're not a real man. And it's just infuriating. But yet, they want this fictional toddler girlfriend, but they can't cope with the reality of her having toddler bodily functions. So, and about Cedric and Sophia the First, they're very, there's a shroud of mystery surrounding his body too. They don't mind you seeing his pants legs, but they never like to show you his butt. And he gets very nervous when kids want to hug him around his abdomen, not because he hates the child, but it's like something he's ashamed of to do with his abdomen. And so I think his pants might be his bathroom in some cases when he can't get to a toilet. And I believe they all have tiny GI tracts. And then his wouldn't be that much bigger than that of the children. But what's even more shocking is that the girls, and that's what they really don't want you to know, which is why they kind of phased out the character after those things may have started coming to light in the later seasons. And what they really don't want you to know is that Sophia might even know this about him and may have wanted to even try it herself a few times. And, take an old school wizard dump and then just wish for clean panties, and her amulet would grant her that. There's a reason why Sophia was on pull-ups and Elena of Avalor was on good nights for girls. And video's gone on way too long, but I just really think, and the other thing about Cedric I want to mention is that if he grew his hair longer, like in a ponytail, like his voice actor, and pulled it back, like, he would look like a skunk. He would have a white streak down the middle of his head like a skunk. And that's a subliminal way of saying that he doesn't smell like roses much of the time. And, the brown fingerless gloves, instead of, an infinite number of other colors, might be like the handkerchief code of the 80s telling you that he has a kink about something. Not gonna say what. Fetish. He's a gay man with that kind of a fetish. And so I'm thinking that it may not have even been as accidental. He may have thrown up because of motion sickness, anxiety, disgust over how he smelled, and possibly eating the wrong foods. And I feel like Sophia, because they show the horse, but you can barely hear that she's not only vomiting, she might be straining. And so they may have shared in a very special bond together that they don't want kids to know. But I feel like children's media is like that. You have like this big yellow ball of Play-Doh with a smiley face. That's the layer with the talking animals to try to shoo the more intelligent viewers away. Then beneath that you have an orange layer of Play-Doh. And beneath that you have the red ball in the middle. That's the more crude stuff they don't want kids to know. That's so discreetly hidden like that. Whereas Family Guy is just a big red ball with a frowny face. And so is South Park. But now that I'm 40 years old, it's like, I'm just so glad. I'm so glad I never got any tattoos. Thanks to Leviticus 1928. And I never bought any shirts with all these silly characters. Though I do have a weakness for dolls and figurines. And we'll go ahead and post this video. Happy St. Patrick's Day.